This is your first economics video for unit number 1 on basic economic concepts. This video is going to focus on the principles of economics, or the first principle of economics, and what basic economics is about. So economics is all about the study of choices, how people make choices, how families make choices, how countries make choices. And the reason we have to make choices is because everything that we want and need is scarce. Scarcity is kind of the underlying principle of all of economics, because we can't all get everything that we want and need, because there's too many people demanding too many things compared to the amount available in resources. Because scarcity exists, that means economics can exist, which is the study of how a society manages its scarce resources. But you can also apply the principles of economics and how we make choices to how you make money in the financial markets, which is called finance, or how you make decisions with, your family, or how do you make decisions on what to buy at the grocery store. There are two main subdivisions of economics, and the first one is microeconomics. This is the study of households and firms and how they make decisions and how they interact in markets. Microeconomics is a lot about price, costs, and profits. Macroeconomics is economy-wide phenomenon, like the economy of an entire country or the entire global economy. Here we talk about inflation, unemployment, and economic growth. The first principle of economics is that people face trade-offs. Because we all make decisions and we're making them constantly, every decision involves a trade-off, because we can't have all of the things we want. So when we opt for our first choice, then we don't get choices 2, 3, and 4. In economics, we believe that everybody tries to make a decision which will maximize their utility. Utility is a measurement of, let's say, usefulness or happiness. So if you are really hungry, then you might maximize your utility by buying lunch. Now, everybody's utility is different. So some people would buy a different lunch than you would, or they might buy more food than you would. And at some point, your utility can go down. So if I'm super hungry and I buy 2 pieces of pizza, then I might maximize my utility. But if somebody forces me to eat 20 pieces of pizza, I'm now getting ill and I am no longer maximizing my benefits from eating the pizza. Here are some other examples of possible trade-offs for choices that you make. As a student, how do you spend your time the night before a big exam? Now, I know that you don't study for every exam, or at least not every student does, because there's lots of other things that you can make decisions to do. You can go to sports practice or play practice. You can have dinner with your family or play with your friends. Now, if you have 2 big exams on the same day, now you've got an even harder choice. Do you study at all? Do you split your time evenly between the 2 subject areas? And then if you are going to study for one more than the other, how do you make that choice? Some people would say they're going to study for the exam for which their grade is lower in the class, or maybe study for the one that they don't think they understand the material as much. Some students even go into their grade book. They look at the point value of the particular test. They see how much it will change their grade should they get an A, B, or C on it, and then spend their time maximizing it to see which test they can make their grade go up by the most. Now I want you to go ahead and get out an active learning sheet. This will be a new piece of paper, and we're going to start an active learning sheet for macroeconomics. Remember, these have to be done on paper, and you'll turn them in on paper. You can put them in your notebook, or you can use a loose leaf sheet of paper. You should label this one Macroeconomics, Unit 1, Active Learnings. And then I want you to go ahead and start active learning number 1. I just want you to jot down a few examples for each of the following questions. So how does your family spend disposable income? Disposable income is money your family has after they've paid their major bills. B, what does a company do with their profit? Profit is money that a company has after they've paid off their costs. And C, how should the government spend tax dollars? Now that's a really big question, so I've given you just 2 possible ways. Let's say that you only have these two options and that the government should spend some of their extra tax dollars to fix our roads, like fill in potholes, make the lane lines easier to see. Or option number 2 is giving a subsidy to a business. A subsidy is like giving free money to a business in the same way that the government might give free money to a family who is on welfare. Which of these two things do you think would be better for the government to spend our tax dollars on? Go ahead and pause the video and add a few answers to your active learning. So principle number 1 is that people face trade-offs, and that is because scarcity exists, which we already went over. But society also faces an important trade-off, particularly with countrywide and government decisions. Do you make a decision that's more efficient, or do you make a decision that's more equitable? An efficient decision means you're going to spend your money where you can get the most back from it. So you're going to put your money in a place where you can get the maximized utility out of your scarce resources or get the most return on your money. Sometimes governments make decisions about equity, and that means distributing prosperity, distributing taxes, distributing resources and services fairly among every society's members. So again, there's some times where efficiency might be beneficial, and there's other times where equity might be beneficial. In the last example, when we were talking about fixing the roads or subsidizing businesses, which of those decisions do you think is more efficient? If you answered subsidizing businesses, you'd be correct. If the government decides to give a subsidy to a business and they give some free money to a business, that means the business has reduced its cost. They can now provide a good or service to the marketplace at a cheaper price. And that means you and I as customers benefit because we don't have to pay as high a price anymore. That company, if they also make more profits, also has to pay taxes to the government on their profits. So the government sees a higher income tax rate and corporate tax rate based on the giving of the subsidy to a business. In addition to that, the business might also use that subsidy to hire workers. Workers need jobs, they need income, and with that income, they can then spend money. Again, you pay sales tax when you spend money, so the government might see a return on their investment. Fixing the roads would be a much more equitable decision because everybody uses the roads. You are not required to prove that you paid taxes at all to drive on the roads or to go into a public park or to use a sidewalk. Those are things that the government provides for everybody, regardless of how many taxes they pay. So fixing the roads will help not only citizens, but also businesses. Businesses ship products. You and I have to use the roads in order to get to stores to buy those products. So equity benefits everybody, both people and businesses. So here is the ultimate question from economics. Do you make a decision that tastes good, or do you make a decision that's good for you? Now, in the long run, obviously, we would hope that you're making long-term decisions that are good for you. But a lot of times people end up making the decision that tastes the best in the moment. So if you decide to have 20 pieces of pizza and a whole bunch of candy for your dinner, that might taste really good at the time, but you're going to be sick. You could get diabetes. All sorts of bad things can happen in the long run. And a lot of times this taste good versus good for you trade-off is about short run and long run consequences. The best thing you can do for yourself is to make good for you decisions that benefit you the most in the long run, even if they're a little tough in the short run. It's kind of like, why are you spending so much money to go to college? Well, because it's spending 4 years, it's spending tons of money, and you eventually know that in the long run, you're going to be better off. You will be able to get a better job at a better income.